You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Digital Deep Dive Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to dive into content. Still top of mind for pretty much everybody out there right now. And we're getting ready to launch our annual survey here of the top topics, but just kind of where we pick apart, hey, what are the things we need to cover, on all the events that we do, but also on the podcast. And I just, in the preliminary, feelers that I put out, content was top of mind. Everybody knows it's incredibly expensive. But we've got some great friends over at Coley, and we've got Kim Rayburn on today. We did a couple events with them over the past year and just all around digital experts in this space. And so, but Kim, I'll kind of kick it over to you. If you want to do an intro on yourself and on Coley, that'd be awesome. And then we can get rolling. Sound good?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I handle client engagement and provide help to the teams with brands and retailers that we work with. And we provide such great content to brands across the country. And what we want to do is we want to provide them incredible dynamic content. And what we mean by that dynamic content is, photos and video testimonials. And we want to give consumers amazing content that they can connect to brands with and make purchase decisions in their lives. And so, we have this great community that helps provide this amazing stuff to attract and market to consumers across the country.
Yeah. Awesome. And when you're talking about consumers as a whole, that brings up this topic that's been around for a while, voice of the shopper. The unique thing is from the shopper, from the consumer, we can get content, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And just kind of in the pre-call conversation that we were having, you just had a great way to put it of how you guys look at it. And I'd love to kind of break down when you take a look at the voice of the shopper and content, what does that look like? And then we'll kind of pick that apart.
Okay, sounds great. So, just by the definition of the voice of the shopper, I think we all have to ask ourselves, are we truly listening? Are we truly listening to everything that they're telling us along their customer journey or their purchase journey with us? And so what we like to kind of break it down into a couple pieces. One is we want to put beautiful content, authentic content, in front of consumers across the country about various brands. We want to provide this beautiful experience, this picture of what attracts them to a certain brand. And we also want to use photos and testimonial videos so that they can make the best decision for themselves, consumers. The second thing we want to do is we want to open the doors. We also provide text and video reviews. And when we talk about listening, hearing that voice, is these text and video reviews are so essential for brands and for retailers, because it is the time where consumers give their voice on products. And if we're listening to those voice, we can actually make decisions on products. Let's say there's something that they love about a product. Then we can drive more things about what they love about the product. If we find issues with the product, when we do another version of a product, when we provide those insights back to the brands, they can make various changes or versions with those products over time. What a text review does is it goes into the features and functionality, and it goes into more detailed, features and functionality about the product, use cases, and other things. Videos, we all say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a video within a 30-second, 1-minute video, even when you're using a more complex and more expensive product, you can also watch a 1 or 2-minute video, and it can go into details about how people are using it, how much they love it, how it fits in their life. And really, when we talk about voice of the shopper, we're trying to figure out how that product is used in their life with their family. Whether it's a pet product with their pet, they're very passionate about, telling the story in a video. And what we want to use those text and video reviews, we want to kind of cull out the best and the most prioritized information out of that, and then summarize that in a more insights-based response or report back to the brands. They use those insights to make changes for products moving forward. So it's kind of when you think about voice of the shopper, it's a very dynamic system. So we're going to put beautiful things in front
It's
of
actually
them.
like circular then
Yeah,
too,
it's very
right?
circular. Yeah.
It's starting
Yeah.
that you can feed into, and then you can get the feedback to create the new content to put in front of people to listen, right? To create, to put in front of people, listen, create. And it seems exhausting though, but
well, the volumes, I think it's going to be very important because the volumes, you have to have great insights people that can synthesize some of the information and then provide it in a summary format back to the brands and back to the retailers, because it'll help them prioritize where they spend their time. And when they're listening, the priorities with the consumer will change, but it's very important to kind of have a system that is not only a circle, but it's a dynamic circle. So whatever consumers want, if they want more of it, we want to give them more of it. If they don't believe some of the content, or we put the content in front of them, we test it, and then they'll respond to it. And then when they give us the reviews and information back, we call through those insights, and then we make changes with the content as we move forward in the future. So it is this, this dynamic system, and depending on the volumes of that system, we just want to make sure that we can synthesize that for them.
But I mean, that's, I think a key point is the sheer volume, right? The more data, the more testing you can do, the more content you can create, or maybe it's adjusting the actual content, right? Do you have people because I can see it not only feeding into the content that you're doing, but also adjusting brand guidelines as a whole. Do you see that happening?
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, we have, content creators, we have content experts, we have people who are experts in, photography and video. We want to provide that help to the brands that we work with and the retailers that we work with. We also have experts, global experts in reviews, text reviews and video reviews. And then we have an insights team as well that can basically ask the right questions at the right time and synthesize the information back and help prioritize that back to the brands.
Yeah, I think what's happened over the past few years is there's been this huge push on content, like pump out as much content as you can. And I think that's more or less where it gets exhausting, is when you can't get any feedback. I mean, you can see sales go up or down. Maybe you can find some, you're tracking sentiment or likes or, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But you're just pumping out content. Like, this next phase is do something with it, right? It's smarter content. It is dynamic, but it's also smarter content. What are you doing? Are you strategically planning what you're putting out there? Are you gathering all the insights, which are massive? You have to have a platform that's going to crunch all of that, so then you can actually get something out of it.
Correct. The analysis is really key. Providing those insights back to our client base is really key. The other thing about reviews too is I know we've all been, shopping a certain brand, and sometimes you'll see 6 reviews. And the question that we always get is, at what point are they believable? At what point are they authentic? At what point are they most recent? So I think people, when they look for a text review or they're looking for a video review, they almost want to see themselves within that review. That's when it really hits home for consumers, when you see yourself in a review. You're looking for a dishwasher, or you're looking for, you see a new brand of bottled water, and people are talking about, it just tastes fresh, or, you're looking at a new dishwasher. It's so easy to load. It's, my dishes come out amazingly clean. When that resonates with you as a consumer, that speed of, they can, in a video review, they can pick up that in a minute or a minute and a half, versus if they only see 6 reviews on a product, they're like, well, maybe that's not been discussed, right? There's not enough voices for me to, make a large purchase decision on. So we always work with our clients to let them know that not only do you want recent reviews, but you also want to look at the quantity, because people are looking at it and they want to know, is it authentic? Is it recent? And have enough voices been heard on this product for me to make that type of purchase decision. We see that kind of monetary, variability with the amount of reviews and the recency of those reviews. So all those things are, super important, and we strategize with our clients to go through those really big decisions.
Yeah. How many people do you feel are doing it right? I mean, you've been in the digital space.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, your background is pretty cool. Right?
Thank you. Well, my mom would think that,
Yeah.
my mom and dad would think that's really nice.
Yeah. Well, who's doing it? How many people are doing it right? Because I mean, when you take a step back and look, right, there's obviously there's the Coley perspective.
Mhm.
And you guys are crushing it in this space. When you take a step back and think about content as a whole, like how many companies are doing it right now? Because I think a lot of people are doing content and they're creating it, but they're also like, I need to know next steps. Like they know there's something more. Like, but they're gauging themselves. Everybody they're looking around, but they also don't know. You'd see content, but to your point, like one of the biggest values is crunching all the data on the back end. And so you as a brand could be putting out tons of amazing content, but if you're not analyzing on the back end and putting it back in that loop that we were talking about,
Right.
then I just think from my standpoint, if I'm looking on the back end and I see this amazing content, that doesn't mean that company's doing it right. It just means they're putting out amazing content, but they might not be maximizing it. So strategically, when you look at it holistically, like how many people do you think on a percentage basis are doing it right?
Well,
Or best in class, I would say.
or best in class. Yeah. I think I think the old historical way was when we launch. That's kind of the historical way is when we launch a product, we would go and pull all that information together and we would launch it and we would post it and we would, put everything on the PDP, depending on, the construct of how the retailers would allow us to launch that product. And what happened was we would launch that and then we would kind of get ready for the next launch, or we'd get ready for the next launch. And so when the question is how many are doing it right or wrong, I think it was that we were doing it under a different framework, and that framework has changed. And how that framework has changed is now, if people see the same thing week after week, they don't feel that that brand is dynamic, or they don't feel that they are, listening to the insights and pulling it back in and doing more content. They don't feel that framework is dynamic. They feel they just put it out there, let it stay. And I've heard some of the consumers that we've interviewed. Some are asking like, why did it say, why is it stale, or why aren't they updating it, or whatever? Because some of that information, updating content over time, it's, if you want to do it, it's do it right. So I would say I've probably seen very few brands dynamically update their content, and we recommend trying to talk to them about a quarterly plan of updating it. So I'd like to see them even start with quarterly and doing, updating the content dynamically quarterly, because what that gives you is it gives you an 8 to 12 week runway of posting the content, giving yourself time to get the reviews generated, and then giving yourself some time to absorb the insights and take those insights and then roll it back in the next, quarter to update the content. And you mentioned earlier, we have a platform that allows you to do that dynamically. So I think that that's one of the things that would be great for them to consider. Is the old way of doing it is I'm launching a new coffee. So I'm going to, develop content. I'm going to ask people for the reviews once they buy it. And then I'm going to look at some of the information. If I have the people and I have a company providing it to me in a summary format. And then I'll go back and I'll, kind of put some more information out there, or I'll put some stuff out there. So I think just if you want to look at it more quarterly, I think that would be the way to do it versus launch it, throw it up, and then kind of let it live. Consumers are too quick. And I think we have to kind of, if we're going to listen to them and stay up to date with them and listen to their voice, I think we also have to, constantly use a great platform to actually update the content dynamically with them, and then get those reviews done dynamically with them, and then summarize the insights and pick quarterly times to talk to them. And if they have fast moving, goods, then I would tell them you really need to be looking at these every other month. I would probably ask them to, ratchet up the timing on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And the time frame, I think, might scare a little people at the onset, but I mean, I think with all the tools that are out there in AI, I think we're going to be able to tackle those probably within the year, those time frames.
Agreed.
But you mentioned, I do want to get to the AI aspect of it because it's top of mind for everybody, and it's going to be top of mind for a long, long time. I don't think this is the metaverse talk that's going to be put on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think this is going to power the metaverse talk to get back under the front burner with AI, but neither here nor there yet. Video reviews,
Mm-hmm.
like how impactful are they? Like, is this a central focus that people should be thinking about? Or is it just like, hey, some people are going to do video, some people are going to do text, doesn't really matter? Or are you seeing like that video reviews are driving more conversion? I mean, that would be my guess based on the TikTok effect, that everybody wants a quick little video. They don't want to read anymore.
Exactly. It's generational. The research that I've read most recently is talking about generational. I see it as a transitional piece, and I think this year and next year we're going to see the integration of both. And then going into 2025, it's forecasted to be more of a priority with a backup with text. Because we've already reached volume limits on text to some degrees with some of the larger brands, but I do believe that this year and next year it will be integrated in some form, and it'll be transitional. So, and when video reviews, think about when we're talking about content, we have videos where we can talk about the brand and we can market the brand and we can show people using the brand from a marketing perspective. But then when we ask everyday shoppers, they just bought a lasagna, and we want them to talk through how they fed their family, and they review it and they talk about the taste and the price and all the things that we'll ask them about. So those video reviews, the authenticity of those video reviews are going to be essential. So I think they're very transitional, but a lot of companies are looking at them as innovation right now. They're early adopters to it, but it's going to go quick.
Yeah,
it's going to go quick. And the conversion numbers are, proving to be a little bit higher than text reviews. So I think over time, as people use more and more of them, and when you do video reviews with a buy now feature, I can look at a purse and I can go, oh my gosh, it looks amazing. That's how that color is gorgeous or whatever, and just buy now. So
Right.
Within a minute, we can read a review and see a video review, and we can kind of scroll through the text, and like within a minute, I can go boop and buy a purse, and do a buy now feature. And it's so fast to capture their attention, and also get the review and read a review or see a review, and then they're like, I look like her. I want to wear that purse. I want to wear that outfit. Boom.
Right.
So if consumers are fast, right? We give them fast.
I personally love the video review. I mean, if you go there and there's, 50,000 reviews, right? And you're, of those, 500 are 1-star. Like, I mean, that's where usually I was like, I want to read the negative reviews, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong here? This is forever. I'd rather see a video than somebody, like you were saying, like you want to see yourself in the review.
Yeah. You want to see your own, I mean, because you're looking for something specific, you want to see your own kind of use case within the situation. And if you see yourself, it's like, oh my gosh, boom, and I think you can get to the point quicker as well with video. We know that from the content that we, put together. You'll still see a still photo, or you'll see a video testimonial about, a water product or a dishwasher, or a computer or a mouse, or, some type of food. So it's going to be very transitional. And I think there's going to be Brands are trying to determine how fast they should go in this direction. Should they still keep, the text reviews going and invest in video reviews? The answer is yes, because they're very integrated, and we can use both to synthesize insights out of them and help drive, what do we do next? How much do we invest in content to drive the marketing and the advertising, and drive people to the site or to an app? And then we get those reviews done. We get the voice of the shopper. We're listening. We see what they love, what they're asking questions about, might just need more information on the product. We use those to gather the insights and then to kind of use as fuel to fuel the dynamic nature of the content and the dynamic nature of the review. So I think it's going to be like a quarterly kind of speed process. And then we'll even get with AI, we'll even get quicker. So I think brands need to kind of put their seatbelt on, because, we've got to go fast, and the retailers want to go fast too, because they want to sell more, faster, faster and less shelf time, so that, everybody's would win by just increasing the speed and making it more dynamic.
Yeah. And I just think that there's the more data on the back end that you're going to be able to gather. And the really interesting stories are the ones where you have somebody with a product, maybe it's in fashion, and they have a target demographic that they're going after. Mm-hmm. And then the feedback they're getting as they're putting out the content is from a completely different demographic, different age group, right? Different part mm-hmm. of the country. And they realize that, they could hold there, or the total opportunity is 3x if they just shift who they're targeting towards, right? And that it's all based on feedback that they're getting and analyzing. Wait, it goes deeper than just hey, I really like this, I really like this purse, easy to open, whatever. Mm-hmm. But who actually bought it, mm-hmm. right? And getting that data information back to overlay on who your actual target is and have that feed into your overall content plan, but also your brand guidelines, which then is feeding into the marketing as well.
Correct. Because then you'll change the content based upon what you heard, and you'll look at the variances between the two, which is, extremely interesting. So this is the video reviews and the text reviews and the integration, and using those insights as fuel to fuel the content and make content changes. Then what you should have is this beautiful loop where shoppers feel heard. And if I was walking the streets today and asking, are you a shopper? Yes. Have you been heard recently? And they go, well, what do you mean by that? Well, how many brands have you interacted with, or how many retailers have you interacted with this week? And they tell me, and have they heard you? Have they heard your voice this week? Have they heard your voice this month? Because that's what we want to use reviews and insights for, is that we are listening to that voice, and we're using that voice as fuel, and we're fueling back into the system to feed and change the content based upon who now we're targeting, who's connected to the brand, who's buying the brand.
What are you most excited about over the next year? I mean, this stuff is changing. Everything's changing so fast, and it can mm-hmm. be content. It can be anything in the digital space. What are you most excited about?
The two things that, I think our team's most excited about is the integration of text and video with video reviews, because it tells a story so fast, and it's a new and emerging, and the players are still being figured out. So it's very, for a company, when the players are being figured out and people know it's important and it's highly innovative, it's just so exciting. And then the other thing that is most exciting is how to help retailers engage with brands and kind of get them on the same dynamic page to drive, to listen to consumers, to drive consumers to what they really want, and to make sure their voice is heard. Because I do believe, maybe in a post-pandemic, and maybe it's my personal opinion, but I believe when we came out of the pandemic, because I whether my husband likes it or not, I love to shop. I love retail. I love brands. I love what we do. I don't feel heard. And I've had that feeling this year and last year, is that things are in autopilot. And I'm just starting to see some brands and retailers peek out and say, we really need to do that. We really need to do that. And I've been reading the NRF feeds this week that, I used to go to and speak at, and I'm feeling this inkling. I get this inkling of hope that like, oh, we're listening now, and we're, and this is the most exciting part is I think that ears are starting to open. We're like, okay, the pandemic's over. This is over. This is over. Now let's just 2024, let's get down to business and really give consumers what they want on their terms and help brands understand that. And then this connectivity that all these brands have with all these different retailers, I think is the most exciting kind of framework to work in, because it's challenging. But then when you get it right, it's so exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, everybody was running so fast and so hard, during the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. And then there's this like pause that's happening right now. We don't want to do anything more. We want to assess everything that we have. We've signed up for every gadget and gizmo and tech partner under the sun because we didn't want to miss out on anything.
Right.
Now we're doing this the last 6 months. It seems like it's been a lot of evaluation being done around who are the partners that I really need? What's the tech stack really need to look like? What is the platform that I really need to be on? And those pieces are finally just coming together, and coupled again with the amount of work that needs to be done and the AI tools that are popping up that can handle it. It's this convergence in 2024 that I think you're right. I think retailers can finally say, okay, you're we still have people coming in the store. We're still selling a bunch online. Brands are excited about that opportunity that it can be split and they can have the brand awareness aspect. They can be in store, but they don't have to be all online and having to pick, pack, and ship every single package. And now they're at a point where they want to start signing up for stuff and rolling out programs and projects and everything internally that I think the consumer is going to benefit from. In a year from now, it's going to be bonkers. It's going to be bonkers.
Agreed. 100%. It's kind of like I want to wear a shirt that says, let's run. Let's run together, right? Let's run together. I mean, people want to go to great stores. They want to go to great sites. They want to get great service. They want to buy great products. They want to talk about those products. And then, we want to use that fuel to kind of attract other people to those brands and to those products. So, you need amazing content to do that. And so I think if we listen with greater frequency and we dynamically update content and we, get as many text and video reviews as we can, and we synthesize those and we kind of go back to the brand and say, here's what we heard. Let's all listen. Let's make these changes. Here's the recommended changes that we, believe you need to make on your site with content through your social media, through all those channels. Then, if we catch up with the consumer, and, I kind of feel like during the pandemic, we all went online. We all, we did everything online. And then we kind of what my one friend told me the other day, she said, I feel like we all overanalyzed our closet. And, we cleaned our closet, and then we came back to work, and now we're kind of we want to use that metaphor at work. We just want to focus on the things that really matter. And what really matters to brands and what really matters to retail is listen to the customer, use that information, and the best way they can do it is through reviews, through feedback loops, and then take that information and put in front of the customer, in front of the shoppers, what matters to them. That's the best way to do it.
I always like the opportunity. I've been picking your brain for the past half hour. So, any questions to throw back? What's anything for me? More than happy to.
Oh, absolutely. I would love, since you have this amazing community of, e-commerce people, marketing people, what is the top 2 or 3 things? Because we've all talked about 2024. It's so exciting because we kind of feel like we're unleashed a little bit and we can just all run and do great things together. What are you hearing as top priorities in your community of things that people say, I'm going to run 1st of 2024, January, February, March. These are the things, these top 2 or 3 things that I'm going to make time for, make investments for, and I'm going to, help my company do.
Yeah, it's driven out of profitability, customer acquisition cost, and performance. And what everybody's doing right now is the same thing that the retailers were doing, which is I think they're finally excited that things have started to calm down, right? PE VC money dried up, these little tiny startups that were muddying the waters and, people didn't know what to do with, but the really good solutions were trying to explain why those weren't actually going to work. Those little guys kind of like the PE VC money's dried up. So now we've got a smaller pool of really good tech partners where in any category, you can't necessarily go wrong, right? You're almost the people that are left, have survived for a reason. They've got a customer base, they're profitable, they're post Series A, you've got, happy customers, and you're looking for a personality fit or a platform fit. And so now what they have the time to go not look at 100 different tech solutions in every single category, but look at 2 or 3. And they're also now, because they've trimmed out all the garbage that wasn't working, they now almost have a budget to go spend not on everything they want, but on the key 5 to 7 things out of maybe 15 that they can actually go, like you're saying, and all of a sudden start running. They can go all in. And maybe that is, that could be a new whole platform. That could be a new form of checkout. That could be, content generation. It could be Amazon paid media. It could be, using, the marketing cloud, which there's some crazy updates where you can take your first party data from your direct to consumer site, put it into AMC, have AMC then go target people, Amazon shoppers that match that, but carve out, right, the actual people that you put in that's gone through a clean room up and in. Like we're getting really, people are going to be able to try that, and they're going to have the budget to do it. And then we're going to see the wins. And all this stuff is changing so fast that like I think executive teams are starting to see that they need to let their teams run because every month your team is walking, they're getting 6 months behind.
Correct.
That's just the reality. And you have to be able to explore all these AI tools that are out there. I mean, this is like the ones that get posted randomly on LinkedIn, like, hey, top AI tools. People should spend an hour or 2 hours every week. Just grab one of those lists and start looking at every single one of them. And most of them are cheap, man. They might be $20 a month if not free right now. So have a budget and explore all those tools because AI, like we were talking about earlier, it's coming so fast. And there's a small group of people who see it and are starting to comprehend. Nobody's going to fully comprehend right now where it's going to end up, but they really see the impact is going to be huge and where it's going to be impactful. We have another layer of people that are like, oh, wow, it's going to be impactful, but hey, I'll wait for it to affect me. And then there's a whole chunk of people that are completely oblivious. They don't even care, right?
It's like they're afraid. Do you feel they're afraid to place their bets? Because, I think this is the year where I think the things that you're saying is people are feeling freer to place their bets and, and then kind of be all in and say, I'm going to go this direction and we're going to be all in because we know the importance of it.
Yeah. If you think about enterprise companies, especially that power a lot of these, they can't go with the pre-Series A startup that's not profitable. It's not happening. They're not signing off on that unless they've bought a random brand that sits off to the side and is doing that. And they say, hey, play with it, but it's not getting incorporated into like your procurement. It's not going to pass, and just when you ask for the Dun & Bradstreet number, it's not passing. It's not getting incorporated. With all those little guys going, we've got these people that are left that money's pouring into. Yeah. And now actually, they do feel freer because they know the one that's working, and they're confident it's probably going to be around for the next 20 years, and they can pour into it and run. So freer to place their bets is a great way to put it, right? Because they're safer bets than they were a year ago, even safer.
Exactly. Bets. So if we were in the same location and we had a huge whiteboard today, we have content up there, we have reviews up there, we have insights up there, we've got this dynamic, framework of stuff, and we threw AI on there. Is there anything else missing that we haven't even talked about today that needs to be on that whiteboard that we need to be thinking about and reading about that's going to impact us this year? Do you have any kind of futuristic thought about, aside from content reviews, insights, and AI, is there anything else that you're kind of, you go like this, you're feeling it, and with the conversations that you have every day, is there anything else you'd throw up on that whiteboard to say, Kim, we need to really kind of start thinking about this and talking about this?
It's the paid media standpoint. The framework that's out there today is going to fundamentally change over the next 9 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. And I know you could always say that in the past because things were moving so fast. Mm-hmm. But with cookies actually going away and the walled gardens getting tighter, and the amount of data that they're setting on, first party data, that are, when you think about AI, if it's all pulling from the same data set, we're all pretty much going to get the same answers over and over again. But when you have these major conglomerates, the podcast that comes out, this, NRF week, is with, Microsoft, who now has a retail media network, right? They bought Promote IQ. And it's interesting because they sit on a unique data set. Amazon sits on a very proprietary data set, right? Meta sits on a proprietary data set. Mm-hmm. They have an unfair advantage over most companies that don't have that big of PII data sets to over-index on advertising. But that doesn't mean that you can't have an AI tool that sets as a layer underneath that's pulling in all those insights and then conglomerating it and then pulling out additional insights. And that's where these new agencies are going to if you're not AI driven, you're not going to be able to afford to keep up because you can't make decisions fast enough. And so the advertising piece, and I think everything that you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Anything that has to do with advertising, all the stuff in the whiteboard and all that data that's going, it's going to feed into an engine, an advertising engine. And when you can pull all that and you plug it in, and the content for the actual ads is auto-generated, it will come from the whiteboard that you're talking about.
Right.
It'll come from that, the consumer insights, the thought of the voice of the shopper, and then there'll be a feedback loop for, what worked. There'll be two feedback loops. One, you'll get more ratings and more reviews that'll feed back in, but you'll also get the feedback of what actual content is converting.
Correct.
Right, from the ad standpoint. And then that's going to feed the funnel again. And you're going to have these two funnels that are going. And if you don't have something that can take all of that and splice it apart and make the right content based on what's coming out of all these silos, well, gardens that are out there, and whoever is putting this together, man, like when you do it, it's $1 billion company.
Exactly. Because you got the auto generation.
It will be done because it can be done now. It can be done now.
Correct. So the auto generation is huge, but then the distribution. So whoever owns the keys to those components, right?
Right.
We need to be early investors in those.
Yes, for sure.
Because you're right that if you have all this, if you're gathering all this and you're generating all this, somebody's going to run the analysis on this, and then somebody's going to hold the keys to the distribution of all of this. And the distribution could be in seconds or a second. It's like, so I think you're right. I think that we think about like, oh, a year or two, but then you're thinking like, oh no, it's probably six,
It's
9, 12
sooner.
months
It's I
away. It's
don't
here. It's here.
that it's really weird, just the spot that I do sit in and having all these conversations and, talking to all the brands to stay on top of, hey, who are the current wave makers in the space?
Yeah.
And, you think back since we kicked this off, the number of wave makers went from like 5 in the digital space, 5 to 10 to 20 to 30. And now it just went up. There's like 200. And to stay on top of that, because brands are making connections. They're like, wow, these people are like with you, right? Like Kalia is amazing. Bring them into the network, let other brands know, put them on the podcast. Like, awesome, jump on in. The rate of those intros has just gone up where people are like, this is an unbelievable tool. And it used to be, I would hear, this is an unbelievable tool. And I would jump on, I look at it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of neat. Now it's almost 2 times a week. I'm like, yeah. And I get on there, I'm like, this is legitimately an amazing tool.
Exactly. So
I
now
can't
it's
tell enough
total
people.
legitimacy now.
Yeah.
Like it's totally legit.
It's like, well, yeah. And that used to like rarely happen. And now it's like, oh my, like it's going fast, which just makes it fun. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
But I think there's still in those spots it's very disparate. And there's going to be people who start seeing, I see what those 3 things, and what I don't think really works well is when you buy 3 different companies and you try to push them together and say, hey, make it work. But when you have, every few years, everything getting reinvented, there's going to be people who say, well, these are the top 5 tools. I'm going to make a tool that does all 5 of them and I'm going to sell one.
Right.
And those are solely get consolidated. And yeah, we're in a crazy time.
I know. I love it. I mean, if you look at one's career and one's journey, there's always been, I remember one of my early mentors said, if you just trust in consumers, trust and listen, they'll tell you everything. They're willing, like, think of us as consumers where we get information, can you give me some information on the product, or we put a rating and, we do a review or something. It's like, we're happy to do it. We're happy to do it. If we had a great experience or a bad experience, we want to give that information back to the brand so that they can cycle and, get the insights and improve. We want to see brands do great that we are passionate about and that we buy from,
Yeah. As you're talking really quick, what's coming to my mind is that we want a relationship with the customer as a brand.
Yes.
And like any other relationship, if you're not actively listening, right, to your partner in the relationship, you're not actively listening. And that's everything from friendship to spouses, right?
Correct.
Doesn't matter. You want a relationship, you have to listen. If you're not listening, if it's one-way communication, a relationship doesn't get built.
Correct.
Right? That would be an acquaintance.
Correct.
It's somebody you just say hi to in the grocery store and you keep on going, as opposed to a relationship where you understand them. And the only way to do that is to listen. And yeah.
Well, yeah. Be listen and be present.
Yeah.
And be active. And so the consumer, if we're dynamic with them, they appreciate when you try to stay ahead of them. Mm-hmm. They appreciate if you even try to keep up with them or stay ahead. But what they don't appreciate is when you're not trying, right, and when you're not listening. That's when you'll see brands just fall off a cliff, when they stop caring and they stop listening. And
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's when the relationship falls apart.
That's when the relationship falls apart, when you're not active, present, you're not listening. So that's what we love at Coley, is that we listen. We love our brands that we work with. We love to connect the brands and the retailers, and we love to create just amazing, I call it top-notch and amazing content that drives brands, that drives the experience for consumers to buy those brands. And then we love to create and help brands, get text reviews and video reviews and synthesize those insights and provide those insights back to the brands to see the priority and should we be going after someone else, and what actions, what's the call to action,
right,
from those insights. And that's what we wake up for every day, is doing all those pieces.
You guys are crushing it. And we're kind of getting right to the end of time here. Kim, has been a fantastic conversation. Really appreciate you. The team over at Coley, all you guys do for the network as a whole. Thanks for the great conversation today. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks again, my friend.
Thank you. We appreciate you as well. Thanks for everything you do.